Chapter 4. Smoke and Scotch Bonnet. By November, the kitchen no longer felt like a place Winston wandered into. It felt like a place he entered on purpose. The house still carried grief, but it had changed shape. It no longer sat like a weight on his chest every hour of the day. Instead, it lingered like smoke. Present, invisible until the light hit it just right, and the kitchen had become the only room where that smoke seemed to thin. Winston began waking before sunrise. He liked the quiet of early morning, the low hum of the refrigerator, the faint blue light stretching through the blinds, the world not yet fully awake. He would open the spice cabinet and just stand there, inhaling thyme, nutmeg, clove, curry powder, pimento. Scotch bonnet peppers rested in a small bowl on the counter, bright and almost cheerful in their red and orange defiance. They looked harmless. They were not. His mother laughed the first time he sliced into one without gloves. "Boy, you think this is a joke?" she said, as he rushed to the sink, eyes watering. "It can't be that bad," he started, then hissed as the heat bloomed across his fingers. She handed him milk and shook her head. "Respect the pepper." He began to understand that cooking in their house wasn't just about ingredients, it was about respect. Respect for heat, respect for time, respect for where the food came from. One Saturday, he asked his father to show him how to make jerk chicken properly. "Properly?" his father repeated, raising one eyebrow. Winston nodded. Not the oven version, not the weeknight shortcut, the real thing. His father studied him for a moment, then walked out to the backyard shed. He returned carrying an old metal grill pan and a small bag of pimento wood chips he'd ordered online years ago but rarely used. "You can't do it exactly like back home," his father said, "but you can get close." They set up the grill, despite the cold air biting at their hands. Winston mixed the marinade carefully. Scotch bonnet, scallions, garlic, ginger, thyme, soy sauce, brown sugar, allspice, a squeeze of lime. The smell hit him immediately. Sharp, sweet, alive. His father leaned over his shoulder. "More thyme." Winston added more. "And crush the allspice fresh. Don't use the powder." He did, grinding the berries with the back of a spoon until the scent intensified. They scored the chicken deeply, working the marinade into every cut. "Why so much?" Winston asked. "So the flavor can go all the way through," his father replied. The words lingered longer than they should have. Flavor all the way through. They let the chicken sit for hours, the marinade darkening the skin, the scent filling the kitchen. While they waited, his father began to talk. Not about the funeral, not about condolences, about Jamaica. "You ever see Blue Mountain at sunrise?" he asked suddenly. Winston shook his head. "It looks like the earth is stretching," his father said, staring past the kitchen wall as if he could see it. Mist rolling low, roosters crowing, and somewhere, somebody already cooking. He described mornings on the island, smoke curling from roadside jerk pans, fishermen hauling in their catch before noon, neighbors calling out greetings in patois that sounded like music. "We didn't have much," he said again, echoing his mother's words from days before. "But when we cooked, it felt like abundance." Winston imagined Andre there, laughing, sweating under Caribbean sun, competing with cousins to see who could handle the most pepper. He remembered the one summer trip they had taken as teenagers. Andre had tried to impress everyone by biting into a raw Scotch bonnet. He lasted 3 seconds before running for water, face red, eyes streaming, insisting he was fine through coughs. Winston laughed at the memory. It startled him. Laughter had felt foreign lately. His father glanced at him. "You remember that?" "Yeah." He was stubborn. "He still is," Winston corrected instinctively. Silence followed. Neither of them corrected the tense. That afternoon, they carried the marinated chicken outside. The wood chips began to smoke almost immediately. Thick, fragrant, real. The smell was nothing like the kitchen versions they'd made before. It was deeper, more primal. Winston stood over the grill as flames licked at the edges of the meat. "Don't rush it," his father said again. That phrase seemed to follow him everywhere now. The skin charred slowly, darkening to near black in places. The sugars caramelized. Fat dripped and flared. Smoke curled around Winston's head, settling into his clothes. For the first time in weeks, he felt something close to pride. When they finally brought the chicken inside and cut into it, the meat was tender, juices running clear, heat blooming gently instead of overwhelming. Winston took a bite. It wasn't perfect, but it was close. And in that closeness, he felt Andre again. Not as absence, but as memory that lived in flavor. He chewed slowly. "This is how he'd want us," his father said quietly. "Together, eating." Winston nodded. Food had become more than distraction. It was bridge. Between past and present. Between island and suburb. Between brother and memory. As Thanksgiving approached, Winston insisted on helping plan the meal. "Not turkey," he said firmly. His mother laughed. "We can have both." So they did. Jerk turkey alongside curry goat, rice and peas next to stuffing, sorrel drink chilling in the fridge beside cranberry sauce. Winston took charge of the curry goat, determined to prove he could handle it. He marinated the meat overnight, careful with the Scotch bonnet this time. Browned it slowly before letting it simmer for hours, until the connective tissue softened into silk. He stood over the pot, stirring occasionally, tasting constantly. Too salty, add potatoes. Too thick, add water. Too bland, more allspice. The process steadied him. The rhythm of adjustment felt familiar, almost like debugging code, but warmer, more sensory. On Thanksgiving afternoon, the house filled again, relatives arriving with covered dishes, laughter returning tentatively. When someone complimented the curry goat, Winston felt heat rise to his face. "You made this?" his aunt asked. He nodded. She smiled slowly. "You might have something there." Might have something. The phrase lodged in his chest. Later that night, after everyone left and dishes were stacked high, Winston lingered in the kitchen alone. He replayed the day. The compliments. The quiet pride in his father's eyes. The way cooking had given him a role again. For weeks he had felt useless, unable to fix what had happened, unable to protect anyone, unable to make sense of loss. But today he had fed people. He had brought them to the table. He had carried something forward. He wiped down the counter and stared at the knife in his hand. Its weight felt different now. He thought of Andre again, not in uniform, not in ceremony, but at the kitchen table, elbowing him for the last dumpling. "You better learn to cook," Andre had joked once. "Can't have you starving when you get rich." Winston smiled faintly. "I'm learning," he whispered. As December crept closer and cold settled deeper into D.C., Winston spent more time experimenting. Escovitch fish with crisped skin and vinegar bite. Callaloo sautéed with garlic and onions until silky. Fried dumplings puffed golden. Each dish came with a story. His mother spoke of hurricanes and harvests. His father spoke of fishing nets and roadside stands. And in listening, Winston began to understand something he hadn't before. Food was archive. It carried migration, resilience, memory. It told stories that textbooks never could. He began writing those stories down in his notebook, not just ingredients, but context. Grandma used to grind this by hand. Andre hated too much clove. Dad says smoke matters more than spice. The notebook thickened. So did something inside him. One night, after hours of experimenting with jerk pork, Winston leaned back against the counter, exhausted but satisfied. His hands smelled of garlic and thyme. His clothes carried smoke. For the first time since the knock at the door, he did not feel untethered. He felt rooted. Heat had changed the meat, time had changed the flavor. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the process was changing him too. When he cooked, he felt closer to Andre, not because it erased the loss, but because it honored the life. The kitchen was no longer just quiet, it was alive. And in the curl of smoke and the bite of Scotch Bonnet, Winston found something steady enough to stand on.